Are we man spreading enough?
Dude, I gotta just, because we're burning through so much time. I want to get through some of these questions I have, because I'm going to ask you about some pretty crazy shit here. It's going to start out pretty normal, but it's going to start getting progressively more challenging.
Let's go.
So, first thing, this is just some basic stuff, and this is I'm asking this for the sake of a lot of the guys out there who watch this expecting to learn a lot about pickup, and I want to bring up the single biggest pickup problem, and it's something I still have not mastered completely, right? And it's approach anxiety. Now, I'll give you just a straight example here. So I was out with Mitch, and there was a woman. She was a cashier, and she was being super flirty with me. And she was hot, and I didn't take the opportunity in that moment. And I was telling Mitch, I'm like, we were driving back, I was like, what was that? Like, I'm not tied down like Mitch is, right? Mitch is tied down in a monogamous relationship, and I respect him, right?
Happily so.
That's not where I am right now, right? So
right.
I was like, okay, dude, why didn't I talk to her in that moment? Like, what miswiring in my head,
or trance-like state, because you almost snap out of it.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, but I can't like go back in there now. You know, it's like, because the vibe was there, and you know, there's a timing, and women like
yeah, the window.
I'll tell you what, that window was real, man. Like, and I think you could probably work your way around it, but women they're pinging to see how masculine, how in control you are, how, you know, like how certain you are of yourself. Like, does this guy know what he wants? Can he take charge? I'm open to this right now. And if you blow that window, it's like, buddy, you lost your chance.
Like, I know.
Right. And that's true.
I can't walk back in and be like, hey, you know what? I don't know why I didn't ask you for your number, but here. She'd probably be like, well, why didn't you ask me for that 5 minutes ago? Right? Maybe I'm wrong.
I think you were still within your window there. You could have went back in on that one.
I can't go back today, but.
Oh, no, but you go back. Here, the technique that I give gentlemen, I give several. But it's a matter of training, and I make the point, when you're, as a man, we're biologically wired to respond to a physically appealing woman. That's a biological response. You can't do anything about it.
That's me all day long. That biological response.
Yeah. But you can use the NLP technique, and you can condition yourself. And when I looked at a very beautiful woman, I did not see, quote, her. I saw the 5 ounces of gray and white matter that would fit in my hand, her brain. I'm serious about this, because again, if you control the mind, you control that body.
That's right.
The mind, control her mind, you'll control the body. So if you want the body, focus on the mind. So it's really funny when I look at a attractive woman, I literally, I'll just be honest with you, I actually see a brain. You know, I actually understand that I'm trying to penetrate senses, and it's a matter of conditioning and time. But it's a technique. But you have to. It's an override switch. You have to override that impulse, and it comes from practice. I also tell guys that you use the physical. Grit your teeth, talk through your teeth. They think that for some reason you're really, but what you're doing is you're triggering. This is all Tony Robbins stuff as far as that goes. You can use your kinetic clues to trigger yourself to override what you're saying, because that isn't really a problem. It's that fear of rejection, and that's what has to be understood and overridden, and it comes with practice.
Well, you know what's funny is, so, I mean, sometimes I'm very casual with this. Like on my phone, I'll just open up my phone, put contacts, new contact, and I'll just hand it to her and look her in the eye.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes they're like, and I'll just be like, I'm like, and I'll just kind of gesture. Like, you know.
I love that's a minimum effective dose.
Right.
And
it's
deadly
effective. It's deadly effective, because they're like, wow, this guy's got balls. Like he's not messing around. He's not even saying, or we'll just even be talking,
Yeah,
and
you're
I'll
not
just be
even
like,
flipping around.
I'll be like,
That's
hey,
good. Hey,
yeah, I
man,
gotta
that's
go.
good.
And I gotta go. Listen, and I'll just hand her the phone, and it's like assumed, right? But now, but in that moment, in that time, and she was
Right.
being flirty. I remember she even said, she says, my name is Ying, like yin yang, and I said, I think you're the yin and I'm the yang, and she goes, I think so, like that, and I was like, I'm in.
She also said something about like she said exactly the time she was done
I know.
without him asking
Right.
that question
Right.
first.
Like I mean,
Damn.
yeah, it was like basically she like
It
the
was
welcome mat
it was too good that you're like, what? It's like threw you off for a loop.
Is that what happened, Mitch? It was just too good. Right?
Too good. Wait a minute.
Yeah. Oh, and
And
she
that's
was
you said the key phrase though, Mark. You said looked her in the eye. That's
Yeah.
where it's all at.
That's
hey, man,
right.
you know it was fun back in the disco days
Mm.
to never say a word to a woman and do it all with the eye contact and take her outside all through the eyes, baby. That we know that body language is 85% of communication. The verbal is only 15.
Absolutely.
And it's the look and it's that and she can literally see it in her eye, in your eyes. That is where it is. Man, you got damn. Help your boy out there, Mitch. You know, next time you'll just come on, man.
I think we all
just slap.
I think we all need those ones. I think what actually should have happened is that he should have gone back as even if the window was closed, just as punishment to train himself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you, man, there's so many opportunities like that. For all of the ones that I've gotten right, there's some and I'm like, dude, what? Why aren't you like this 24/7? This needs to be your default mode. Anyway, all right. So moving on. All right. So because I got some interesting topics I want to bring up, man. So
Okay.
now this is a little bit from left field, and they're going to get more and more from left field. All right.
Okay.
So now let me just ask you first off, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
60.
You're 60. I'm 50. Right on. I hope I look as good as you when I'm 60, man. So
Thank you.
and I understand you are recently, if I understand correctly from the context, you are now settling down with a woman for the first time.
When I wrote my book in 1990, and I got to the chapter, and I had to write about the good girl. I closed the chapter out with a story, and when I was sitting there writing, what came to mind was a woman from 14 years ago that I went to high school with. To me, she was beautiful, but she was so nice to everybody. She disregarded her beauty. Everybody loved her. She was the girlfriend of the captain on the football team. They went on to get married, have 2 great kids, have a business. Long story short, 14 years later, I'm writing about her. So she's in my book. Okay. Years later, after that, 5 years ago, her and I connected. She had gotten divorced from her husband. He cheated on her. He's a philanderer and so forth. And that's the woman sitting next to me now. And so the woman I'm with now is literally the woman I wrote about in 1990, Kathy. And we were
As an archetype.
She was actually on the homecoming court. And so I was too, because the foreign exchange student asked me to escort her, German girl, asked me to escort her to homecoming. And so there's a series of pictures where, and Kathy's father was in the stand taking pictures that day. And so we have a picture of the exact moment when foreign exchange student on my right, I'm looking to my left, and it's obvious I'm checking Kathy out. And so you talk about visualization and programming. That's the woman that I've been with for the last 5 years, and she's the love of my life. And I don't, I told her it wasn't an emotional decision that we're together. It was just statistical probability, because for there to be pictures that your dad took from 1976, when the exact moment when I'm checking you out, I always, and so that's why I say, Miss Kelly Jo Erickson, the Playboy model, that was a fun party for 15 years, but you don't marry a freak. You marry a good girl. And I've never been married, but I'm going to put a ring on Kathy's finger, and we're going to get married at some point shortly in the future. But that's who I'm with now. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it's the best sex and here's the thing. It's the best sex I ever had too. That's really the bonus. Gee,
that's a bonus.
And I make the point. The best type of woman is a good girl with a streak of freak. They all have that it's the bottom line of what they do with their vagina, but they're all women as far as that goes. So yeah, that's where I'm at now. That's why I feel comfortable now in looking to do MakeMenGreatAgain.org and looking to help guys, help that high school sophomore who doesn't know anything about women and looks at them like this. Hey, let me help get you to where I'm at now. Totally happy at this point at the end of the trail. I sowed my wild oats. I got videos. I mean, hey, man. Hey. Like Tupac said, I was hitting switches on bitches like I was fitting hydraulics. That was like a roller coaster, right? But
that's how do you want it? How do you want it? Great song. Yeah.
How do you want it?
Yeah. That used to be one of my favorite jams for the longest time, man. I still love that jam too. It's great. That's actually probably one of the best getting ready to go out to the club song. Yeah. You flip that on, the game is on, right? It's beautiful shit.
Yeah,
so this is what I was leading up to. Okay, so you're 60, and I'm assuming you've never had children.
Right, that's correct.
Okay, and you plan on having kids?
It's called the opportunity cost. We know as businessmen, when you make a decision, there's always the cost of what you did not do.
Yes.
And when I was real young, I read an article that said the whole biological imperative of any biological entity is to reproduce. So when you reproduce, nature says you've done what you're supposed to do and your clock ticks downward.
Yes.
And so I said, if I never have children, will that keep me young?
It's been working for me.
Right.
So far.
It works for you, works for me.
As a bee, if you don't use that stinger, then you won't want to die after.
Right.
So I gotta pee, my friends. I'll be right back.
That's a great way of putting it. Exactly.
Mitch is taking a potty break. So this is the real question that I'm getting at here. Through the biblical lens. Mm-hmm. So we are both looking at a future of being men who just simply don't have children. What is the biblical implication of that as a biblical scholar?
Did Jesus have any children?
Not that we know of. Not that we know of.
Not that we know of. And God's a very good author. And sometimes you got to read between the lines of what an author says. So I'll refer you to a verse in Revelations that makes the point. And this is on that Bible side of the discussion, but it says that there's the 144,000 men who have not been defiled by a woman. Whoa. So if Jesus didn't have any children that we know of, or the Bible making a point, I don't feel too bad being in that company.
Very interesting. Okay, wow. That is a totally different lens. I had never considered that before. And you know me, man. I mean, I look at the world through as many different lenses as possible. You know, I've studied multiple religions, and I mean, and just about all there is out there in philosophy, and there is often from time to time I look back at my life and I think, I wonder if there is something on some level that I'm missing, not having had kids.
No. Well, I didn't mean to be so forceful. It's really funny though when I talk to a lot of guys that say, "Oh, I wish I'm so glad I did." Hey, and
and they're lying.
Yeah, and they're lying, Mark. They're lying. Yeah. And I made a conscious choice. I have 4 sisters. I've raised a lot of children. I've been a great uncle and influence for them.
Yeah, I'm a great uncle. I'm a great uncle.
Yeah, there you go. But what was the monks of old, the aesthetics? You know, there are certain men that having children was not, quote, their calling, unquote. And that's why I emphasize the junior. I am the son.
Yeah. Okay.
You know
what, man? This makes me a lot more at peace because I know kind of in my heart, I'm like the warrior monk, man. I kind of know like that's a warrior monk with a little bit of a little bit of bad boy in him. You know, I mean, I see my girls. I see my girls, you know. And so on that note, this leads me to the next thing. And so, having multiple FUBUs, friends with benefits, right, and all that.
Yes.
How sustainable is that throughout a man's life? Is that, do you get to a point where that's just no longer sustainable?
Book 2, the advanced strategy, I explain the cycle and the rotation.
Yeah.
The earth revolves on its axis while it revolves around the sun. So you got two things going on there.
Yeah.
And I tell men that understand, especially with the freaks, that you're going to take them through a cycle. You know the end of that relationship before it and as it's beginning, because you're going to be friends, then you're going to have sex, they may or may not move in, and then you're going to break up because they realize that you're not going to settle down, and then you're going to be that guy that when their new guy is acting stupid and he's not as wise or as smart as you, who they're going to call, and you're going to help get them to the next phase, and sex may be involved in that. And when you're seeing multiple women, when you have women in rotation, so you got the cycle of any particular relationship, and then you have any rotation that you set up. My limit was 3. You know, to properly satisfy a woman takes effort, and 3 was about my limit over a period of time. It ran.
And there is management time. There is management.
Yeah, exactly. Because as a man, understand, you can play yourself. LL Cool J makes a point. There's a fine line between tricking and balling. Okay, being a baller or being a trick. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you find yourself devoting yourself to servicing women, thinking that you're the one in control, you may have crossed the line. See, somebody like you, Mark, you got things to do in life.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's why I say success with women is a byproduct of having a successful life. So if you lose track of that, then yeah, you got a problem, because now you're chasing women.
Right.
You know, but you're not. And that's why I put in that website I made.
I don't chase.
You talked about a woman in episodes 88 and 89 of your morning show. You for 2 episodes you talked about a woman that you really could have got into.
Oh yeah.
You said her job, she had a separate. I had a situation like that, so I hired her to work for me. So then I became her job. You know, we solved that. So then she was with me as I needed to on my schedule. And you had the means.
Bait switched her right into a hoe position. That's some chest level shit right there.
Yeah. So.
Now on that, it's funny though. I've actually been extremely careful, and I'm quite proud with the fact that I've been very, very good about not crossing those professional lines. Like women that have worked for me, I have never pushed that. Even though I tell you what, I have been tempted. There were a couple. There was one especially, like I could have fallen in love with easily, right? You know, just the quintessential good girl, super smart, right? But I was like, dude, you are the CEO. You have no business getting involved in this. Do not cross this line. And I just felt in my gut, like if I cross this line, I'm doing both of us a terrible disservice. I'm probably going to tear the company apart. And I think there are a lot of guys out there who they don't understand the implications of crossing those lines.
Well, you passed the test as far as that goes. You didn't fools rush in where angels fear to tread. You didn't cross that line. But that's the point I make in book 2. Understand that you need to have taken her through the cycle so that she is in the point when you get down the road and you do make that decision, hey, maybe it is time, that she's there to go back to because you maintain the contact. You were a friend. It's Richard Pryor used to have a comedy routine, and he says we were friends when we came into this, and we'll be friends when we leave. So that's you have to, and that's why I say it's really important to know the end as it's beginning and where you're going to get to. A lot of guys, they make the mistake of getting into a relationship. They didn't define the type of woman they were with. They didn't know what they wanted. Lots of guys, they fall in love with the freak, and they try and turn her into a good girl. That is the quintessential problem that most men have. They fall in love sexually first, and then they want to make her a good girl. And then they want to change her up. They want her to dress different. They don't want her to go where she was going before. And then they get I just want to be friends, and maybe we should slow it down. And they don't know why. Then their head's fucked up, and they're laying there at 2 a.m. wondering what she's doing and where she's at and so forth. And that's why I say
it's a problem the other way around too for the other genders, for her trying to turn a fucking bad boy into a good man.
True. Yeah, it's a classic. I'll tell you what, I've been there. There are definitely the freaks that I've tried to turn into good girls, and it was it was just a losing proposition from the beginning
because they try.